I can't do this anymore, James. You're never home. You're always either off with the order or the errors. Lily Potter was interrupted by the man she called James. What do you want me to do, Lily? We're living through dangerous times. What dangerous times? Rebecca looked questioningly at the others whose sole focus was fixed on the arguing couple. If you don't like it, Lils, then leave. Fine. Hey, what's happening? Blurted out Lena, who held a firm grip on Damon's shoulder. It looks like we have changed locations and are at a bar, answered Elijah. Klaus froze, his eyes taking in the appearance of the familiar bar, and cursed silently. This was where he had met Lily Potter for the first time. Just as the thought crossed his mind, he saw his past self walk over to Lily, who sat on the bar nursing a drink. "That's you, brother," stated Cole. "Really? I didn't realize." Klaus rolled his eyes, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "What is a pretty girl like you doing sitting here all by yourself?" Klaus smiled charmingly. Lily looked up, blushing slightly. "Got in an argument with my husband, and I have no clue why I am telling you that." Sitting down beside her, he said, "Well, sometimes pouring your heart out to a complete stranger helps build perspective. Seriously. Why haven't you compelled her and killed her already?" Bonnie gasped. In fact, everyone was staring incredulously at Klaus. Klaus stared ahead for a few seconds before saying, "It was her eyes. Something about them. I couldn't do it. I couldn't see such vibrant eyes, so full of life, take on a dead, empty look. I did not expect that." Cole stared at his brother in disbelief. As the conversation continued to pick up, Lily laughed. "You know, here we are skipping through many topics and I haven't even gotten your name. I'm Lily Potter." With a wolfish smirk on Klaus' face, he took her hand and kissed the back of it. "I'm Nick. Nick Michaelson." "Huh, I was expecting you to say but you can call me Klaus," said Damon, imitating his British accent. The scene kept changing to different days, yet them sitting at the same bar, and Rebecca couldn't help but ask, "Nick, how long did the two of you go out?" 2 months, was all Klaus said. His interest peaked when the scene changed from all the ones of them at the bar. Lily Potter looked to be in a huge manor, sitting in a drawing room with a woman who looked her age, with brown hair, matching chocolate brown eyes that held kindness and a friendly smile on a cheerful-looking face. "Alice, ally. I have done something terrible," cried Lily. Alice took both of Lily's hands in hers and said in a soothing voice, "I'm your best friend, Lils. You can tell me anything. Promise me that what I tell you doesn't leave the room. You cannot tell Frank, promise me." "I promise." "What is it?" "I'm pregnant." Lily choked up. Alice looked confused. "Why didn't you and James tell us when I announced that I was pregnant yesterday?" Her face then took on a cheerful look as she said, "Oh, our kids will be the same age. This is Fant." "No. Alice. It's not James. I've been having a small affair. I cheated on James," Lily said tearfully, and Alice gasped, placing both hands over her mouth in shock. "What?" They all looked at Klaus in shock, who stared at the scene with an unreadable look. "Vampires cannot procreate. It isn't mine." "She is lying." Klaus snarled through gritted teeth, just as the scene changed again to show Lily in Klaus' hotel room. Their attention was directed away from Klaus for the time being as they looked on at the new scene that awaited them. "What is it, love? You look bothered," Klaus asked Lily casually, seeming a little impatient. "I have to tell you something." I don't know how to tell you this." Lily looked terrified. Taking a deep breath, she blurted out, "I'm pregnant." Klaus looked at Lily for a moment, before letting go of her and walking to pour himself a drink from the bar. "Your husband must be thrilled," he drawled out with a shrug. "So you're here to tell me we cannot continue with the affair, is that it? How sweet of you." he smirked contemptuously. You didn't care for her, did you? She was just for sex. Elena stared at Klaus accusingly, her face morphing into disgust. Rolling his eyes, Klaus snapped, You didn't think I fell in love with a human, did you? I was merely bored of sleeping with mindless whores, and Lily could carry on an intelligent conversation, so I didn't bother compelling her or feeding from her. You're an asshole, you know that? Growled Bonnie. How old is she? Asked Elijah curiously. 18. Both her and that husband of hers, shrugged Klaus indifferently. That young? They got married at such a young age, gasped Carolyn. No, that's not it. I'm pregnant with your child, yelled Lily, staring at Klaus with something akin to disbelief. Klaus stilled for a moment, his glass froze in midair as he looked at Lily. What? That's impossible, he snapped, banging his glass on the table loudly. I cannot conceive children, Lily, whoever the father is. It isn't mine. Well, you're the only man I have been sleeping with for 2 months. My husband has been sleeping in the guest room since then, and I am a month pregnant. You do the math, growled Lily, taking a step forward. It's impossible. Klaus glared fiercely at Lily. Let us say you are in fact pregnant with my child. What do you want from me? Because if you're expecting a proposal, or for me to hold your hand during checkups, then you are sadly mistaken. What? You don't care that I am carrying your child, or that you're going to be a father? You're saying you don't care about me? Let me make myself perfectly clear. I have no feelings towards you, it was all sex. That is all you are to me. And that child you are carrying doesn't belong to me. Now get out, and don't come here again. I want nothing to do with you. Klaus roared. I hope you rot in hell, screamed Lily before banging the door closed behind her, her tears echoing around the room as the scene ended. Really, Klaus? Did you have to be so hard on the poor girl? Asked Elijah in disappointment. She was tricking me. Telling me that I fathered a child. Vampires cannot procreate, Elijah. She lied to my face, growled Klaus. You are such an ass, spat Carolyn. I'm over 1,000 years old, Carolyn, drawled Klaus. Sex with humans usually end with a broken heart, rejection or death. You should be glad I didn't kill Lily Potter. And that makes it okay? Elena gaped at him. You know, Elena, you might want to ask how many broken hearts and dead bodies your precious Salvators left behind after they had sex with some girl. Cole grinned at her. Elena stilled for a moment, her eyes traveling over to Stefan and Damon, who were looking at anything but at her accusing eyes, and Klaus smiled satisfactorily. Elena wasn't able to say more as the scene changed and they found themselves back in the house from the first scene. Lily seemed to be crying while James stood unsure of what to do. Lils, what's wrong? You've been crying for a week. James knelt down to look at his wife. I'm pregnant, Lily croaked. James froze, and then whispered, What? I cheated on you. I'm so terribly sorry. I was in denial and I was angry, and then I met someone and I regret it. I realized I love you, James Potter. I love you, and if you want to divorce me for being a cheating whore, then James held a hand up, interrupting her. I'm not stupid, Lily. I knew you were cheating on me. Why didn't you say anything? Gasped Lily. Because I love you, James said simply, smiling crookedly at her. Always have, always will, ever since I first laid eyes on you in the train when we were 11 on our way to Hogwarts. He grabbed both of her hands and kissed them softly. I'm scared of losing you, Lils. We've faced Voldemort personally twice, and I thought that if you met someone then he would take you away from England, away from the war. You stupid toad, Lily giggled. I was in denial. It was a phase. We got married at 17, right after graduation. I was stupid to think there was anyone better than you. I love you, James Charles Potter. And I love you, Lily Marie Potter, he grinned cheekily, and I don't care that I'm not the father. I love you, and if the baby growing inside of you is anything like its mother, it will be very lovable." "What are you saying?" Lily gasped. "I'm saying that even though you're not pregnant with my child, I will treat it like it's my own, and a few years from now we'll do a blood adoption at Gringotts. I love you, Lilipad, and I will love our child." Lily laughed loudly and jumped into James' arms as he captured her lips in a passionate kiss. "Wow. There aren't many guys like James Potter out there," Rebecca breathed out with tears falling from her eyes. In fact, Damon, Stefan, Klaus, Cole, Elijah and Jeremy stared bewilderedly as Elena, Caroline and Bonnie cried as well. "He's so romantic," Caroline cried. "He's loved her since 11. Now that is a story I want to hear." "You idiot," growled Rebecca, smacking Klaus on the head. "What the hell was that for, Becca?" yelled Klaus as he glared at his sister. "You don't get it, do you? Lily Potter is pregnant with your child," she snapped. "No, she isn't," but Klaus was interrupted by Jeremy Gilbert of all people. "If she was lying, then she wouldn't have told her best friend and her husband, would she? If the child was James, then why would she lie to him?" Everyone gaped at Jeremy before switching their gaze to Klaus, who for the first time looked unsure. "But, no, you're all being ridiculous. Vampires cannot have children." "You're forgetting that you're not merely a simple vampire, Niklaus," Elijah spoke suddenly. "You're half werewolf, and werewolves can in fact procreate." "No, no, no," mumbled Klaus repeatedly. "Congratulations, brother, you're a father, and you have a child out there somewhere," Cole smirked, enjoying the rare situation his brother was in. Just then, the scene changed and they found themselves in a cold, dreary and dark dungeon. "Oh my God," gasped Bonnie and Elena. They all found themselves staring at James Potter, who was trying to wake an unconscious Lily. "Lils, come on, wake up," hissed James, one of his hands lying protectively over Lily's barely showing stomach. Lily groaned, her eyelids fluttering before she gasped, opening her eyes. "James, oh my God, James, where are we?" she asked, looking around at their surroundings. "We were ambushed by Death Eaters. They knocked you out first and then someone cursed me from behind," spat James bitterly. "Yes, and I am very pleased to see that my guests are awake," a cold voice hissed. "Who is that?" gasped Rebecca. The man had perfectly sculptured features and onyx black hair, dressed in a hooded black cloak, but what garnered their attention was his eyes. They were red, a vibrant blood red. "Voldemort!" James and Lily hissed in unison, and there was a small layer of fear that seeped into their tone. "What kind of stupid name is Voldemort?" scoffed Cole, his eyes never straying from the one called Voldemort, his hands crossed against his chest. "James and Lily Potter. Still brave enough to speak my name, or rather foolish of you," he smiled menacingly. "What do you want?" spat James, standing protectively in front of Lily. "Twice I offered you before, and I will offer again. Join me, join my side in ridding this world of filth and mudbloods. I will not offer you again. This is your last time to accept." "You know that you are asking a mudblood to join you, right?" snarled Lily. "Don't call yourself that, Lils," growled James. "I'm Mulborn and proud. I have nothing to be ashamed of," said Lily with pride, her head held high as she glared at Voldemort. "Yes, quite admirable of you. You see, Lily Potter, you are the only Mulborn worthy of my cause. The power you hold, the sheer brilliance of your mind. I can turn a blind eye of your heritage and make an exception for you," said Voldemort, his mouth curled in amusement. "Thank you for your proposal," said James sarcastically. "However, we'll pass. I'd rather die than join you." "Pity. May you stay here and rot. You have 3 days to change your mind. If not, then I will personally come back and kill you." "Who the hell is that guy? And what is a mudblood and a Mulborn?" asked Rebecca harshly. "I have never heard of him before, and come to think of it, I haven't heard of a war happening in England recently either, scowled Elijah. Neither have I. Klaus never let his eyes drift from Lily's barely pregnant stomach. The scene changed, and they found themselves in the same dungeon, but it looked to be a different day, and there was an unconscious body on the ground lying at James' feet. "Come on, Lily," whispered James. He grabbed a stick from the man's pocket, waved it and said, "Axia James and Lily's wands." After a few minutes, 2 wooden sticks zoomed into James' open palm. Everyone gasped, looking at the display of magic in shock. So it's true. They weren't lying. There are wand wielders out there. Bonnie stared with wide eyes at the scene. If I didn't see it, I wouldn't have believed it. Damon shook his head. How have we never crossed paths with one in over 1,000 years? Cole couldn't help but ask, his eyes flickering to his 3 siblings who all shrugged dumbfounded as they watched James and Lily Potter sneak out to their freedom. "We must make it to an apparition point. If anything happens to me, you go ahead without me. Do you understand?" "I'm not leaving you, James," said Lily vehemently, shaking her head. "It's not just you anymore, Lily. You're 3 months pregnant. You have our child to keep safe," said James sadly. They came across a man and James wasted no time in uttering, "Stupefy," before they carefully moved onwards. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief when they vanished out of there and the scene began to morph into another one. "He just made a guy drop with one word," gaped Stefan. "You have to admit they are impressive. The magic they wield must be very powerful," Elijah breathed out. "If only I knew what Lily was. I could have used a witch like her," said Klaus regrettably. "Is that all you care about?" spat Elena. "Using people for your purpose? She never would have accepted anyways. You can see how she is adamantly against killing from what we have seen with her conversation with the red-eyed wizard," said Jeremy as he glared at Klaus. They found themselves staring at a new scene. They looked to be in an office. James and Lily were seated on one side and Alice and a blonde man, they presumed to be her husband, sat opposite to them. Looking at the other side of the desk, there sat a man with long silver beard and hair that reached below his waist, a pointed wizard's hat and purple robes. He had twinkling blue eyes, half-moon spectacles and a wrinkled face. "Whoa, now that guy looks like a wizard from the storybooks," said Bonnie, edging closer. "Headmaster Dumbledore, why did you ask us to stay after the order meeting?" asked the blonde-haired man. "Frank, I am not your headmaster anymore. How many times must I tell you all to call me Albus?" The man Albus smiled genially at them as he looked at them with twinkling eyes from under his half-moon spectacles. "Albus, what is it?" asked Lily. "Oh my God, Alice and Lily are really showing. They look to be around 6 months pregnant," Caroline squealed excitedly. Rebecca had a sad smile on her face. She always wanted to have children and feel the joys of pregnancy, which was why she was desperate for the cure. "Alas, my children, I wish I have congregated you here on happy tides, but I'm afraid I have news. You see, the other day I received a message from a Sybil Trelawney asking to meet with me at the Hog's Head for an interview about the post of divination professor." Albus paused, slightly opening a drawer as he rummaged for something, taking out 2 slips of parchment paper. "Upon arrival, however, I was not impressed in the slightest, and an hour later I cordially refused her for the job. However, when I turned to leave, her voice changed, it was deeper and harsher and her eyes were rolling in their sockets." James, Frank and Lily gasped, while Alice said, "She made a prophecy?" "You actually heard a real prophecy in its making." "Prophecy?" echoed Bonnie, Caroline and Elena scathingly. "Yes, prophecies are actually real," said Cole matter-of-factly. "There are a few rare witches that have made some, but they are very rare and the last one was over 3 centuries ago." "And how would you know that?" scoffed Bonnie, though her eyes glimmered with interest, making Cole smirk. "Well, Miss Bennet, witches fascinate me and I spent most of my time traveling alongside them when I am not irritating my siblings," he answered cheekily. Bonnie raised both eyebrows at that, trading shocked looks with Caroline and Elena, who looked equally surprised. Klaus snorted. Irritating is a word used lightly. Cole gave him a mockingly hurt look, placing both hands over his chest. "You wound me, Nick?" "Yes, and I'm deeply sorry to inform you that it concerns your family. One of you, to be precise." Albus sighed. "I do not dare utter the prophecy out loud. I have copied them down onto both parchments with a spell equivalent to the Fidelius charm. Once you have read it, the paper will ignite and the prophecy will not be able to spoken out loud or taken forcefully from your minds." With that, the two Coops took a parchment each and read them, a look of horror appearing on their face as the parchments ignited. "What exactly does this mean, Albus?" demanded James as he clutched Lily to him tightly. "It means, James, that the prophecy speaks of a child born as the 7th month dies, which is July," said Albus sadly. "Also, it speaks of the child born to a couple that has defied Voldemort 3 times. Frank and Alice has already, however, 3 months ago when yourself and Lily escaped his manor with your lives, you have defied him thrice. It means that both of you and the Longbottoms," here Albus looked at the other 2 horror-stricken parents-to-be, "are carrying one of the children the prophecy speaks of." "I want to know what the prophecy is." Caroline looked on with interest. "Well, from the look on their faces, it cannot be good," scoffed Rebecca. "But Klaus is the father, so maybe the prophecy is only referring to the Longbottoms." Jeremy tried making sense of it, but Elijah shook his head. However, Cole was the one to speak. "Not exactly, little hunter. You see, Klaus may be the father, but James is the acting one at the moment. Besides, the child belongs to Lily and the prophecy speaks of her as one of the parents that escaped Voldemort 3 times, and again, what kind of name is Voldemort?" he grumbled. "You always have to ruin your rare moments of cleverness by your idiotic comments," Rebecca sniggered. Klaus tried ignoring the feelings of worriment directed toward his unborn child. He was still adamant that it wasn't his, and even if it were, he didn't care. That child was a weakness, love was for the weak, and Klaus was anything but weak. "What do we do now, Albus?" asked Frank. "I would say nothing, however. One of Voldemort's spies was unfortunately listening by the door, and he caught the first few lines of the prophecy, hastening over to inform his master," said Albus angrily. "No!" cried out Alice and Lily. "So now he knows," James spat, his fists clenching. "I have a spy on the inside, and I will know when Voldemort decides to act on the prophecy, and when he does, you must both hide under the Fidelius charm," Albus informed them. "I will not hide from him, Albus," growled James. "Yes you are," yelled Lily, shocking him. "I cannot have you die on me. Our child needs you. I need you." "It is not an act of cowardice, James." Frank, Albus looked at both men, who looked upset with the prospect of hiding. "To protect your family is honorable and brave. You cannot put yourselves in danger." "It is like they are living in a freaking parallel universe or something," grumbled Caroline. "Oh, look. We're in a hospital, the babies must be born," squealed Elena, looking excited. They found themselves in a hospital room. Lily lay on a hospital bed holding a bundle close to her heart as she cooed and smiled at the baby when James had just entered the room. "Lils?" James walked in slowly, sitting by her side and looking at the baby. Lily beamed at James and held the bundle out to him. "Meet your daughter?" "Daughter?" whispered Klaus, ignoring the pang of hurt he felt when she called James her father. "I have a niece," Rebecca cried happily. Elijah and Cole looked on at the small baby and gasped. Her eyes were a vibrant emerald green like Lily, but with their excellent vision they could see it had a blue tint to it, resembling Klaus slightly, and she had a few tufts of honey blonde hair. "She looks like you, Klaus," Bonnie pointed out. It was unbelievable that her mortal enemy, the original badass hybrid, was a father, that he had a daughter out there in the world. "She looks nothing like me, she isn't mine," growled Klaus through gritted teeth. but he knew he was lying. Now that he could see her, he couldn't deny it in his head that she wasn't his anymore. "You are in denial, brother," scoffed Cole. "What shall we name her?" James smiled, his hand caressing the little girl's head softly. "Venus, after the Roman goddess of beauty and love, because she is precious and I believe her to be a heartbreaker in the future." Lily giggled. "Over my dead body. Boys would do well to stay as far away from her," James growled protectively. Looking at his daughter, he said, "Venus Lily Potter." Lily shook her head. "No. I want to honor her with your name." "Lily Flower," James started to say, but Lily held up her hand. "I know that we will have many more children to come, but I want to honor her with your name. Her brave, kind and noble father, even though not by blood. You stayed around and I can see the love in your eyes. You do not see her any differently, even though she looks nothing like you. So," Lily took in a deep breath, "I want to call her Venus Jamie Potter." Klaus growled inaudibly, but the 7 other vampires heard him with their impeccable hearing. "Seriously, Klaus, he is raising another man's child without contempt. The man deserves a medal," snapped a frustrated Caroline. "Yeah, look, as a guy I have to admit that I wouldn't be happy raising another man's kid who knocked up my wife," Damon shrugged honestly. "Whoa, who's that? He looks delicious," said Rebecca, her eyes darkening slightly as she looked at the man who just walked in. "Whoa." Bonnie, Elena and Caroline stared at the newcomer. He had pure black silky hair that reached his neck in stylish natural waves. His face looked aristocratic and perfect with 0 blemishes, lacking any flaws. His body was lithe and lean. He looked athletic with his toned muscles and olive complexion. But what had the 3 vampires and 1 witch's attention was his eyes. They were a gray color, not too dark and not too soft, almost like pure silver. "He's gorgeous," gasped Elena. "Ah, boyfriend in the room, hello," snapped Damon, waving his hands and looking at his girlfriend in disbelief. "Hey, he is hot." "We're just looking," said Caroline innocently. "Knock, knock Potters," the handsome man said. His eyes drifted over to the baby and he gasped in awe, "A girl? Prongs, Lily, she's gorgeous." "Thanks Padfoot," James beamed. "Did you contact the guy?" said the man, a small look of anger on his face. "Nope, she's James' daughter and that's that," said Lily, smiling when she saw the look of relief on the man's face. "Huh, he must have been worried for James, he must be close to the family if they told him about you, Nick," Rebecca observed. Klaus clenched his fists, not liking those unfamiliar feelings bubbling up inside of him. "Would you like to hold her?" asked Lily. James gave Venus over to the man, who beamed brightly once she was settled into his arms. "Whoa, even his smile is gorgeous," said Elena dreamily. "Okay, we get it, the guy is good-looking. Drop it," snarled Damon. "Good-looking?" repeated Caroline in shock. "The guy is the absolute definition of gorgeous." "Meet Venus Jamie Potter," said James. "Venus," whispered the man, holding on to her tiny hands. James and Lily shared a look, and upon Lily's nod, James smiled at the man and said, "Would you, Sirius Orion Black, my best friend and brother in all but blood, accept your position as being Venus Jamie Potter's godfather?" "Sirius Black? Sounds sexy," Rebecca commented. "We get it, sister, you want to jump his bones and get him in the sack." Cole rolled his eyes. "Can we not discuss that?" snapped Klaus. "What?" gasped Sirius. "Yes, of course. I, Sirius Orion Black, accept the role and position as Venus Jamie Potter's godfather." Once the words were out of his mouth, they all witnessed a golden light envelope Sirius and Venus. It caressed them and glowed before fading away. "What magic is this?" Bonnie looked on in awe and curiosity. "Magic recognizes you as her godfather and gave you her blessing. No one can take the position from you from here on," Lily beamed, wiping tears from her eyes. "Well, of course magic would accept me. Who else is going to teach my gorgeous goddaughter all about pranking? Who else is going to keep all the guys away from her? Sirius smirked. Sounds like a prankster. I tell you what, Bika, if you want to go after him, I give you my complete blessing. Cole smirked conspiratorially at Rebecca, who rolled her eyes, although a small smile lingered. Oh, God forbids she ends up like you two marauders, Lily groaned, though she stared at them fondly. Of course, little Prongslet will be just like her father and godfather, James laughed. Prongslet? I prefer Bambi, Lily giggled. Why does she prefer a deer cartoon as a nickname? Asked a confused Stefan. Beats me, shrugged Damon. That is a story for another time. A familiar masculine voice spoke from behind them. They all whirled around to find themselves back in the red-blue room with Godric Gryffindor and Rowena Ravenclaw staring at them. How did you enjoy your trip to the past? Asked Rowena with a small smile.